Players front, 2-3-man squad crossing in the open right now.
I see him. I have eyes. He's in the tree line directly across.
The pines out in the field to our front right. There's 2 dudes.
Player left in the open. Oh, shot me. I'm dead.
Hit him.
I'm down.
What? Shit, dude, where's the guy?
Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video, and welcome to the DayZ AfterAction series. The series where we break down our gunfights, our real-time decision-making process, our overarching strategy, and all that comes with the chaos of DayZ PvP. Our goal isn't to just relive the action, but learn from it, all in an effort to help you become a more lethal survivor. Today we're breaking down an engagement I got into with a couple of my buddies while on our way to a chopper crash just outside the town of Pustoshka. We'll be analyzing a few different topics today, from how we execute our movement across terrain, decide when to engage the enemy, and even dive into how our emotional state can impact our performance in the heat of the moment. Here's the situation. We're moderately geared with a couple plates, a couple assault rifles, but have limited long-range armament. We don't have much ammo, and we're moving into an area of the map where we know we're very likely to be outgunned. Our main objective is to find better weapons and gear at the crash site before heading further north, but we are also eager to find a fight. And that is exactly what we end up finding.
Players front, 2-3-man squad, running left to right. They're just up the tree line from us, about 200 meters.
Eyes on.
I have eyes.
Immediately after spotting the enemy squad, I make the call to begin pushing south in order to maintain line of sight on them. We spot one of them moving across the open field in front of us, and do consider engaging, but ultimately decide to hold off given our lack of optimal long-range weaponry. We want to initiate the gunfight on our own terms at a closer distance when we have eyes on all 3 of them, especially when we're outgunned, since it'll give us the best chance to come out on top. I take a risk here and decide to push across the open field in order to avoid losing track of the one guy we saw crossing. At this point, we don't know where his other 2 squad mates are for certain, but we can attempt to deduce where they might have gone based on their heading when we first spotted them, the terrain features around us, as well as the location of the chopper crash itself. Considering the massive amount of open space around us, it's very likely that the other 2 players moved through this tree line here in order to get to the crash site. I anticipate 2 of them will move to the crash site to loot, while the other one we spotted moves ahead to this tree line here to provide overwatch. As we continue along the tree line, my squad mate Ethan points out that there may be other squads also moving towards the crash site, hinting that we should be mindful of our surroundings and do our best to avoid tunnel visioning on the original squad we spotted. Doing so will allow us to maintain our broader sense of situational awareness and avoid getting shot in the back by a third party.
It's not us, not at us. Pull back a little bit. Let's cut up a...
I see him. I have eyes. He's in the tree line directly across.
Yeah, that's third party getting engaged.
Where's the fire? Where's the... Down to our left, is there anybody?
I don't think so. Oh no, I see. They're... You see where I'm at? See where I'm looking? Firing. Oh, I'm gonna fire here in a sec.
Where?
The pines out in the field to our front right. There's 2 dudes.
Okay. I'm not set up yet, but go for it if you have a shot. Wait.
Running right at us now in the field.
Okay.
I have eyes.
Taking shots?
Yeah, if you have one.
Friend's down. He's moving. This guy's still up, moving to the right.
He's in this bush in front of us. Oh.
Player left in the open.
One down.
Taking shots on the front.
In our tree line, way to the left.
Alright.
I'm going to deal with him.
Yep.
Oh, shot me. I'm dead. He's in the bush.
Yeah.
Closest bush.
I'm down to Backy.
After the gap.
Just cover,
Go.
Just get cover and I'm gonna flank up. Round to the right.
Here's a quick recap of what just happened. As we approach the end of the tree line, several shots ring out to our southeast close by. We pause for a moment to scan and instantly assess that the enemy squad we were tailing had either engaged or been engaged by a third party. I make the call to pull back so we can reposition further south where there's more cover, but as we begin moving, Ethan calls out a player in the tree line immediately across from us. I never managed to get eyes on the player that Ethan spotted, but we can infer roughly where he is based on the leaves falling from the trees here. Seconds later, I spot more movement further down the tree line to the east and notice 2 players scanning southward. Eager to engage, I struggle to articulate where the other players are to my squad mates, but do eventually manage to call them out by referring to an easily identifiable landmark, which in this case is the cluster of pine trees immediately across the field from us. Seconds later, one of the 2 players begins sprinting towards us. My other squad mate Jake quickly confirms visual while Ethan stays trained on the original player we spotted. In a hasty fashion, we initiate the gunfight, firing at all 3 members of the enemy squad. Ethan hits his target in the tree line, dropping him instantly, but Jake and I both miss our targets. Fortunately, I managed to knock and finish off the other guy in front of me with a solid burst from the G36, followed by an SSG shot. So far, everything is going in our favor. A second later, Jake makes a decisive move to push the remaining player, but is instantly gunned down trying to cross the gap in our tree line. This is our first major mistake. This particular moment highlights an important concept in DayZ PvP, which is what I refer to as emotional discipline. Emotional discipline, while not a universally recognized term, refers to the ability to recognize, control, and channel your emotional responses under pressure so that your decisions remain deliberate and tactically sound rather than reactive or impulsive. We'll dive into this concept more in a future video, but for the sake of this example, we can analyze Jake's individual decision-making process and hypothesize how his emotions might have gotten the best of him, leading to his untimely death. Let's briefly assess our situation to get a better understanding of the factors that shaped our emotional state in the moment. We know we've downed 2 of the 3 enemy players, we're all still alive and uninjured, and we have a solid idea of the remaining player's location. Taking all 3 of these factors into account, it's fair to say we have a high degree of confidence in a positive outcome for this firefight. However, this confidence, or rather overconfidence in this case, is one of the primary contributors that led to Jake's death. With all of this in mind, it seems that Jake's ego got the best of him in the heat of the moment. This led to him carelessly pushing across open ground to try and finish off the last guy, but ultimately led to him being killed. Jake explained after the fact that he thought the opposing player was further back in the tree line, and that he would have enough time to cross the gap, find more cover, and engage him from there. Considering our advantageous position, it likely would have made more sense for him to hold his position and direct Ethan or I to come support him before maneuvering on the enemy. That way, we can minimize potential one-on-one encounters and impose fire superiority on our enemy, which significantly increases our odds of winning the gunfight.
Pushing me. I'm down. I'm down. I'm dead.
Down. You're full, Daddy.
I'm full dead.
Just after Jake is killed, I direct Ethan to cover me while I bound down the tree line to break contact and attempt to flank the player that killed Jake. Bounding, also known as bounding overwatch or leapfrogging, refers to a tactical movement technique where 2 or more teams, or in this case, 2 or more players, maneuver in alternating roles with one providing cover while the other moves to a new position. Put simply, one person moves, the other watches, then they switch. This technique is used to maintain constant observation, suppressive capability, and forward momentum, without ever leaving the team completely exposed. What you just witnessed was a very poorly executed bounding attempt. Instead of moving 10 to 20 meters then stopping to cover Ethan, I keep sprinting down the tree line well beyond the point where I can maintain visual on him, and ultimately leave him for dead. This was our second major mistake. Because we had just downed 2 of his teammates, I was not anticipating the enemy player to push us as quickly as he did, and thought I would have enough time to flank around and engage him from the adjacent tree line. This left Ethan, armed with only a bison for close range, extremely vulnerable. My failure to anticipate the enemy's aggressive maneuver is what led to Ethan being killed. Instead of trying to be a hero and rush to flank the enemy, I should have limited how far I maneuvered so that I could adequately cover Ethan and set ourselves up to engage the enemy at the same time. Moments after finishing off the player that killed Ethan and Jake, I move back towards Jake's body to scan for other players. At this point, I'm fairly confident that all members of the opposing squad are dead, so I begin pulling back to loot the bodies. Just as I reach the bodies, I start taking fire from the tree line up to my left and narrowly avoid getting hit. I briefly take cover, immediately recognize that I'm pinned down in a bad spot and need to move. I take advantage of the terrain around me and use my position and defilade to retreat further to the southeast without exposing myself to the enemy's line of sight. Seeing less and less tree cover around me, I make the decision to cut south to the opposing tree line in hopes of finding better cover and an opportunity to catch the player that shot at me off guard. I hunker down in a small pine tree and begin scanning, hoping to catch the enemy player maneuvering out in the open.
Get him. Oh, shit, dude. Where's he gone?
After scanning for a few minutes, I spot him, only a brief flash of silhouette in the trees across from me. I pull back from my limited tree cover to see if I can spot him peeking again, and a few seconds later, he exposes himself. I fire a shot off, striking him center mass, but he doesn't go down. He returns fire, striking me several times as I attempt to line up another shot, which knocks me down to yellow health. With low health, I quickly recognize that I'm not equipped to continue a long-range fight, so I take cover behind a small rock wall, hoping to regain some health and draw the enemy in for a close-range engagement. But after scanning the area around me, I quickly realize just how exposed I really am. I reassess my original plan and make the gutsy decision to retreat into the forest to the southeast to find better cover and concealment. I start sprinting, fully expecting to get shot in the back, but manage to get away without any rounds being fired at all. After breaking contact and taking cover, I begin developing a plan to re-engage the enemy. It's important that I plan my maneuver under the assumption that the enemy could still be lingering in the area, since it will force me to posture my approach more conservatively. In other words, I'll be forcing myself to be more conscious of the routes I take, the actual pace at which I'm moving, and where I decide to stop, scan, and ultimately engage from. It's about forcing yourself to take the slow and methodical approach, as opposed to the overeager, reckless approach. I do my best to execute on that methodology here. I sit tight for a few minutes to heal up, reload, and do a general inventory assessment. After healing up, I begin moving northwest through the forest, taking care to routinely scan for other players along the way. I make a point to offset my route from the edge of the tree line by 75 to 100 meters, so as to avoid being spotted by the enemy player out in the field, or any other players that might have been drawn in from the gunfire. After maneuvering about half a kilometer to the northwest, I make my way back to the edge of the tree line and look out towards the row of tree cover we moved through earlier in the fight. I scan the area in front of me and quickly recognize that the terrain off to my right provides just enough obfuscation from any player that might still be sitting around Ethan and Jake's bodies. I cut north through the field, doing my best to stay and defilate as I go, and eventually make it back to the original tree line that we tracked the enemy squad through. I begin retracing my steps, taking care to maneuver slowly through the trees. While scanning up the tree line, I spot just the slightest bit of movement in the grass in front of me, right next to where Ethan went down. I crouch down to observe, and instantly confirm that there is in fact an enemy laying prone next to Ethan's body. I line up my shot, fire off several rounds, and land the killing blow, ending the engagement. Let's dive into the debrief and start by revisiting our objectives. When we set out, our 2 objectives were simple: upgrade our weapons and gear, and find ourselves a fight. After killing the last player, I was able to gather a ton of solid loot from the enemy squad and successfully retreat into the woods. However, with Ethan and Jake both getting killed, it's difficult to say that we truly accomplished this, at least in the way we envisioned, with all of us coming out on the other side alive. We'll mark this objective as partially accomplished since I did extract a bunch of better loot, but Ethan and Jake were both killed. We can also confidently say that we accomplished our second objective of finding a fight, and a good one at that. Now let's dive into the lessons learned portion of the debrief. We'll start by breaking down the things we did well. Communication and coordination. When we first made contact with the enemy, I demonstrated effective communication skills by calling out the distance, direction, and number of targets for my squad mates, who both confirmed eyes on instantly. These callouts helped establish situational awareness within the team, which enabled us to quickly coordinate and execute our ambush a few minutes later. Speaking of ambushes, we also did a good job of coordinating an ambush on the opposing squad. Our synchronized barrage of fire on the enemy squad helped us establish fire superiority and led to us quickly downing 2 of the 3 enemy players, giving us an early advantage. Our mid-fight callouts on opposing player movements were also dialed in. We exchanged clear and concise callouts that allowed us to quickly acquire targets, even in the heat of the moment. Movement and positioning. I successfully utilized defilade to my advantage several times throughout the fight, which helped me stay out of the line of fire and successfully outmaneuver my enemy. Finally, I executed a very effective flanking maneuver on the remaining enemy. My tactical retreat and subsequent flank through the forest set me up to catch the final enemy player off guard and ultimately close out the fight. Let's move on to the things we didn't do so well. 2 moments stand out with respect to emotional discipline: Jake's overly aggressive push that got him killed, and my own overly eager rush to flank the enemy that got Ethan killed. Both of these situations could have been avoided if we had just maintained our composure in the heat of the moment. When it comes to emotional discipline, the truth is that it isn't something that can be easily taught, at least not in the way that hitting a baseball or shooting a basketball can be taught. It's an experience-based skill that gradually develops over time with repetition. I found that by simply playing the game and putting yourself in more PvP situations, you can begin training yourself to overcome the adrenaline, panic, and excitement that comes with those encounters. When you first spot that enemy squad 100 meters in front of you, or hear someone run through the trees beside you, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Panic? Confidence? Maybe overconfidence? Every situation will be different based on the circumstances, but ideally, with enough repetitions you can develop an emotionally neutral baseline as you enter every new fight. Taking it one step further, if you have the means to record your gameplay, conducting your own after-action reviews can offer a ton of beneficial feedback and help you learn from your mistakes. We'll finish out the debrief with a few closing remarks. It's important to remember that no matter how well you plan and prepare, there will always be things that happen that are outside of your control. Call it the fog of war, call it whatever you want. The point is that sometimes things just don't go your way, no matter how much effort you put in to avoid dying. You can have the best gun, body armor, and be situated in the best possible position to engage from, but still end up getting killed. At the end of the day, this is what makes the DayZ PvP experience so thrilling. Having to constantly assess the world around you, debate the risk-reward ratio of a particular situation, or simply decide when the best moment is to pull the trigger. And that is exactly why we decided to pursue the chopper crash in the first place. To chase that thrill and potentially score huge, all while being outgunned. But what would you have done in this situation? Is there anything you would have done differently? Feel free to drop a comment down below and let me know. If you did enjoy the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing, as it really does help boost engagement and get this kind of information out to more people. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.